welcome to Let's Get Growing. This is tutorial number 8 and we're just at the end of March, probably beginning of April by the time you see this. So it's a lovely sunny day, spring has sprung. So we're going to start today by looking at the things you've got in your pack. So you should have a little viola, and this is viola tricolor because it's got 3 colours. Yours might not be flowering yet, but this one is. So it's up to you what you want to do with this one. You could just leave it in its little pots, or you could put it in the ground. I think what I'm going to do with mine is I'm going to put it in with the other annuals. So we had the poached eggplant and the California poppy, which are doing really well. So I'm going to squeeze it into here. So I'm going to have a really colourful sort of pot. So I'm just going to take a bit of this compost out. It's not a very big pot this, so that should do it. And I'm just going to bob it in there and put a bit of compost back. Give it a water, but you might want to pop it straight into the ground. So there we go, so that's done. And then you should have a thyme plant. Now they're all different sizes because we propagated these from our big thyme patch in the medicinal gardens. This one's quite a healthy looking one. So what we're going to look at today is when is it time to pot on your plants when they're in small pots. So with this one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tip it and have a look. And that's fine, it hasn't filled its pot up, so I don't need to pop that on yet. But what I am going to do, and this is good with herb plants, is I'm going to snip off some of the tops, and this is to encourage the plant to bush out. And that's it. I don't need to do anything else with that. I want to put it in a nice sunny spot because thyme just likes a lot of sun. It doesn't want to be shaded by anything else, so that'll go outside in a sunny spot. And in your packs you should have some seeds also. So we've got some spring onion, white Lisbon. Again, you could put these directly into the ground if you've got ground, but what I like to do with them, and I think you get a better result, a more controlled result, is I'm going to put them into modules. If you haven't got modules, you could use little small pots. Probably little yogurt pots would work. So I'm going to fill my compost up. And I'm going to dip a hole, not too deep. And put my seeds in the left hand. So what I'm aiming for here is to plant about 5 seeds in each of these in a pinch. So I'm going to get a little pinch of seeds. You can just take your time and do this. It doesn't have to be 5 exactly. I'm going to pinch and then I'm going to drop the whole lot. And the idea here, there's a few more than 5 there. The idea here is that they'll grow in a clump. I'll plant them out in the same clump, and then when I come to harvest them I'll pull the whole clump out, and it just means you get a lot more and it's a lot less fiddly when you come to plant out. Okay, so then I just need to cover them up, a little bit of compost, press them down and put a label in so I know what they are, and then afterwards I'll water them and I'll use the fine rose on my watering can, so I'm going to put them over here for now. And then you should also have packet with some sweet basil in. So I'm going to do these in a little, it's a fruit punnet, a seed tray will do. I'm going to put some compost in. press it down. Again, I'm going into my left hand. I'm going to use my finger and thumb on my right hand, and the aim is just to scatter these quite thinly along the surface. You don't want to spread them too thickly because they'll be really hard to prick out. Okay, that'll do. I'm going to put a little bit of compost over them, just a little bit, because they're quite small seeds. So usually the rule of thumb with seeds is that the size of the seed, so you want it just to kind of cover it. So if it's a broad bean, you'd obviously be putting more, because it's bigger, you'd be putting more compost, but these are quite tiny little seeds. And then I'm going to put a label in, I'll water them, and then when I've done that, I'm going to just put that on as a little propagator lid, because basil likes a bit of warmth to get it to germinate. We're just going to look back at a few other things that might need some attention. So I'm going to look at my stachys, and to me that looks like it needs repotting. So we'll have a look, we'll do the test. And it has, you can't really see its roots very well, but it has filled its pot. The soil's sort of sticking together. So I'm going to get a bigger pot. I'm not going to disturb the plant. If it was a bit pot bound, I would tease its roots out, but I don't think this needs it. So I'm going to just go into the next sized pot. I mean, you could just disturb it a little bit, but I think it'll be fine. Put the compost back around. Okay, and the water. Right, we're going to look at pricking out seedlings now. So the lettuce that we did last time, I was hoping that I was going to be able to prick this out and show you today, but these leaves are not the plant's true leaves, and it's better to wait until its second set of leaves come, its true leaves, because they don't like to be handled before that. So I'm going to leave these for a few days, but the principle of pricking out I can show you with the calendulas, because they've sort of started to get their second leaves, most of these, so I'm going to show you. So I'm going to prick these out into pots. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there's 5 or 6 there. So I'm going to put, well, probably just under half. And then I'm going to use, you could use a dibber, or you could use a knife or a pen. It might be easier actually if I take them out of this. I was quite happy with that as a little propagator. So this is a bit fiddly, and what you're trying to do is not to disturb the plant too much. So it's always, I think I've damaged that a little bit. Might be better to leave these a little bit longer. But it's better to handle the plant with its leaves. Got a bit too much compost in there. So I'm going to hold that in situ with my left hand, and I'm going to use my right hand to put the compost around it. And I'm going to press it down. Might have damaged that one a little bit, but hopefully it'll be okay. So there we go. These are quite robust once they get going. So that's the principle with that. And put the label, and then they'll have a water. And then, what I was going to show you here is the sweet peas. Now, what I can see immediately looking at this is a bit of slug damage. You can see here, I can see the trail of the sort of slugs left. So what I'm going to do is have a look. See, so there's the culprit. So it's always worth having a look under your pots. So I'm going to evict that creature. But the main thing with the sweet peas is they're getting a bit leggy. So I'm going to do 2 things with these. The first thing, I mean, if you're doing them straight into the ground, it's a bit early yet, but you could leave them in the little pots. But I'm going to get mine growing, try and get them growing big and strong before I plant them out. So I've got next size up pot. I'm not going to disturb these at all. I'm just going to leave them as they are. But I think they're a little bit, they're not very bushy, they're a bit leggy. So the next thing I'm going to do is pinch them out, which is a bit tricky. So you want to look for its growing tip. So its growing tip is actually, that's its leaves, that's its growing tip there. So I'm just going to use my finger and my thumb and pinch that top out, and that'll encourage some sort of lateral growth to come out the side, so you'll end up with much bushier plants with more flowers. So I do that with all of my sweet peas, and I'm going to leave the lettuce a few days. So the squirrel's been digging in my wildflowers, so I brought them in here because some of it's alright. I'll put a bit more compost on that. And the new broad beans are coming up, but I'm not going to repot these, but if you were growing them in pots, I would put these into bigger pots, but I'm going to put them straight into the ground. My sunflowers are doing nice, but again, they haven't got true leaves yet, so I'm not handling them yet, but when they do have, I would put them into the next stage pot without disturbing them. The peas are doing okay, climbing up. This is my string to help support them. I think somebody asked about that. The parsley's doing nice, so I just need to cut some of that really to keep it growing so it doesn't go to seed. And then we could have a look outside at how the other things are doing. So these are really nice, the spring bulbs. Some of them, all my daffs are out, my crocuses are about finishing, and the alliums have come up really nice here. And everything's doing okay. It's a bit dry. Strawberries, the onions, the chamomile, the broad beans. These, I think I'm just going to put these into the ground at the allotment or at work because they're struggling in pots. Wildflowers doing nice. The garlic and shallot and spring onions are picking up, but they all need a water. And I think that's it for today. So it's a busy time of year, so if you try and keep on top of things, and you could be sowing there's lots of other things you can sow in April as well. So thanks for watching. Okay, happy gardening. We didn't do the potato one. Okay, sorry folks, I forgot. How could I forget? The potatoes. So the Charlotte potatoes. So these are shooting nicely. And Easter's the traditional time to plant your potatoes. You don't want to be doing it much sooner because they can get frost damage. So I'm just going to show you one today because these are probably going in the ground. But this is a nice one. So it looks like a face. So I'm going to grow this in a big pot, and you could do them in a bag, you could put them in the ground, it's up to you really. You could just use an old compost bag as long as it's got holes in the bottom. So in the bottom of here I've just got a bit of old potting compost that's from some plants from last year. You don't have to be too fussy, and I probably would use some homemade compost, but I haven't got any to hand. But so I'm going to just put the potato in. So I've filled my pot up to about there. I'm going to put my potato in there, and then for now I've got some, like, this is potting compost, so we will want some nutrition. I'm not going to fill the pot up just yet. I'll probably get some other compost from the allotment. It seems a bit of a waste of a lot of expensive potting compost, but I'm going to just do it to there and water it, and then when I see the shoots starting to come up I'll put more compost on top, so it'll be a bit like when you earth your potatoes up. and then they'll carry on growing up good, strong, healthy shoots. And yeah, that's potatoes.
Waiting for the tide to turn, for the moon to come up, for the sun to shine, for the wind to